and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is day 12 of my 30-day vlogging challenge, and today's episode is going to be all about my book bag tour that I took last summer. Bookbag Tours is a teacher traveling company. So basically, well, I'll tell you more in the video. And I gotta be honest with you, this isn't day 12. It's day 13. Well, yesterday I did my vlog about the same topic, and when I was going to edit the videos, I saw that I had a giant dollop of chocolate on my chin. And I had a piece of trash on my shoulder. So some days just don't go that great when you're a daily vlogger, and I thought, you know what? I'll do 2 vlogs tomorrow. Everyone will understand. I did vlog yesterday, but I had a bunch of junk on my chin. Let's get on with the show. Okay, I brought Vader. I just thought it felt more natural than like a weird wall. I do have a Star Wars themed classroom. These are the different planets in the Star Wars universe, in case you didn't know, behind me. Okay, so book bag tours. Where do I even begin? I've always wanted to travel internationally. I am a traveler. I love exploring new places. But I just didn't really, like international travel is one of those things that's real easy to put off because it's expensive and it's hard to know where to start or what to do unless you go with someone else who's done it before. And I just let the years pass me by. Honestly, like I've been wanting to do this since I was a kid, and every single year I just let pass me by. When I was on teacher Instagram one day, I was looking at the teachers, I kept seeing people talk about it. And then I went to a conference called Happy Go Teach. And I think that was November of 2017. Yeah, it was about a year ago I went to that in Minneapolis, and one of the presenters was Kayla Delzer. And she's kind of like famous. She's not kind of, she is famous. She's a famous presenter. She talks a lot about flexible seating, and she's been in newspaper. She just won North Dakota Teacher of the Year. She's pretty phenomenal. So she was talking about how she was leading a group, and she gave this coupon code. She was leading a group to London. And I thought, oh, that's really cool. But I still shuffled my feet on it for a couple more months. I think I might have bought, you could put down, it's like a $300 deposit to sign up for a trip. So I went and read about all the trips, and I decided since it was my first time out of the country, maybe I should just go to England or London. It's a joke between me and Whimsical Hubby. If he sees this, he'll know. So most of the book bag tour trips last about 10 days, and you go to a different country, and for 4 or 5 of those days, you are like a teacher foreign exchange student, right? You go and live in another teacher's house, and that teacher brings you to school with them, and you get completely submersed in that new country's school system. It's so cool. And then the other days in your trip, you can go and do activities with the tour group, or you can go and do your own thing. That's kind of how it works. And you pay a flat rate for the trip, but you can pay in monthly payments if you want. To just get your name down on a trip, though, it's about $300. So you got to go and put your deposit down on a trip. That money goes towards your trip. Most of the trips I've seen range between, I would say $1,500 and $2,200, depending on where you go and how long the trip is for. I believe my London trip was $1,800, and that included all of my lodging and some activities and the stay with the teachers and being able to go into the schools, a background check for the schools. So, I paid that $300, and then I owed another $1,500, and I just sort of divided that out through the next months. I was like, okay, I need to put away, you got to pay your whole trip off a couple months before you leave. So I believe my trip was all due in, I think by April, and I was going in June. So that gave me 4 or 5 months to try to come up with the money. And I mean, it wasn't easy because I had to buy a plane ticket too. but it really forced me to look at my spending habits and create a budget because I wanted to leave the country. I wanted to go on this trip. So let's get on with the trip now. I kept getting a lot of updates about the trip. Ken George is the owner of Bookbag Tours. He is a professor at a university in South Carolina, and he had a lot of like study abroad program experience, and that's why he started this company, because he just saw how it opened doors for teachers and like opened their hearts and minds to international travel, and he wanted to do that for more teachers, and that's why he started the company. And how it works are there's usually 2 tour group guides. They usually have one person who's providing PD, a lot of really big Instagram stars, and then they have another person who's just kind of like a day-to-day tour guide. And that's kind of how it's set up. So you put down your money and Ken George kind of takes care of the rest. It's pretty sweet. So I got on a plane to London. I flew by myself. I went on this trip by myself. It was a little scary, but I knew that I had Ken George's contact info, and I had also signed up for the trip because I knew Kayla Delzer was going, and I knew I could contact these people for help if I needed it. I decided to go a couple days early, but good thing is Ken George was also going on the same trip, and he went a couple days early too. So he met me at the airport, and that's what he tells you. They tell you the day you need to fly in, and then he arranged to meet me there. So I met Ken George. He held up a little sign with my name on it, and then he bought me some coffee. And the main thing for London is figuring out how their subway system works. So he took me through all the steps. Like, he got me this little traveling card, and we got on the subway. And he took me, like, he figured out the nearest stop to the hotel I was going to be staying at, and it was great. And then we went in this group chat. I believe the app is called WhatsApp. Here's something I learned new, international traveling. I learned that, my cell phone from America wasn't just going to work overseas. You have to add a special plan to your cell phone, and most people also add the WhatsApp app, and that makes it easier to talk to people that are over there regardless of their cell phone. The real reason I wanted to go early is because I get sick easily. I'm kind of a bad traveler. I either get head colds or allergies, or one time I just took a road trip to the next state over, and I got these hives on the back of my head. I am not a good traveler. I just get sick all the time, and this time was no different. The minute I stepped off the plane in London, I had a horrible cold, and it continued the entire trip. So that was one day. I'm so happy that I went early, because that gave me a couple days to just be alone and hack and cough and blow my nose. And I had a good time, even though I was super sick. I had a lot of fun, even though I was really sick. All the museums in London are free, and I stayed kind of in the museum district, so I got to see a lot of really cool stuff. There's me on the balcony of my hotel room right there. And the most exciting thing is it was the Queen's birthday party, which is called the Trooping the Colour, and I got to see the Queen of England. Going 2 days early, doing what I want. There we go. Saw the Queen. There she is in a blue hat. She always wears a really bright color on her birthday, or usually when she's out on the balcony. So I got to see the whole royal family. It was so much fun. And so I was happy that I went 2 days early, even though I was alone and very sick in a foreign country. It really wasn't that bad. I was happy that I went because I was able to go get, medication and feel a little bit better. Okay. Here's my third day in London. That's when I got to meet my host family. So Ken George matches you with a host family, and that's who you go and stay at their house, which is really, really cool and fun. And I loved my host family. They were both in administration, and they had a beautiful house in a really populated area of the city, really close to like a subway stop. And it was just a lot of fun getting to eat dinner with them and breakfast. And then I ended up going with the dad of the family, He was like a kind of a superintendent of 5 schools. So I got to go tootle around these 5 schools for 3 days. And every day we would go visit the schools, and he would set me in different classrooms, introduce me to different teachers, and I just kind of would observe and take notes. I tried to walk around and like help the kids, but just sort of absorb the culture, absorb what was happening. And it was so much fun. I feel like those 3 days I learned more than I would in an entire semester at a university. It was amazing. Each night after we would tour the schools, we would go and do PD with Kayla Delzer, and that was a lot of fun. We would meet at the centralized location, and then we would go to dinner or go see a show. We saw Les Mis, and so that was a huge blast too. I love the family stay. Then we switched from being with the family to a hotel room. And I still was really sick and coughing a lot, and honestly, nobody wanted to be my roommate. I was a little bummed out, but I mean, what are you gonna do? I was like this coughing girl that was like hacking and nonstop. I was just so sick, and I get it. I was a wreck. I mean, I couldn't help it though. I was really, really sick. Anyway, I got my own hotel room, and I signed up for a side trip to Paris, and that was really awesome. Go sign up for the Bookbag tour. You know, you pay your initial $300, and then as time goes on, Ken George will send you information about side trips, and those side trips cost extra money. I think I paid around $300 to go to Paris, but it included a bunch of tickets to go see famous sites, and it included a hotel stay. It also included the train ride there. So it was actually a really good deal because it's expensive staying in Paris. The day we went to Paris, it was pretty exciting and fun. So we had 20 people in our tour group, and I think almost everybody wanted to go to Paris. There might have been a few people that stayed behind, but mostly everybody wanted to go. And most of the people on our tour group, they decided to go horseback riding that day in the Cotswold. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but they went horseback riding, and then a few of us didn't want to go. So I don't even remember what I did that day, to be honest with you. I think I was just trying to relax from my cold. I might have gone to a mall. Yeah, I might have. Anywho, what happened is the people in the Cotswold, they didn't make it in time to catch the train to Paris. So I ended up going with 3 other ladies. And so it was just the 4 of us going to Paris by ourselves. Ken George was with the horseback riding group. It was kind of a crazy fun adventure. We were all really nervous and giggly and like, oh my gosh, we caught the train to Paris and nobody else did. And we got to the hotel, and of course, you know, he had bought like 10 rooms for everybody, and we only, like, there was only 4 of us. So we each got our own room at this beautiful hotel in Paris, and just like spend the night in Paris and wake up in Paris. It was really a cool experience. I feel bad for the horseback riding people. They did come the next morning on a train, but it still kind of stinks. I went right to bed, and the girls that came with, they're all a lot younger than me, and they didn't have a bad cold, so they actually went out that night in Paris. They bought croissants for the morning. Anyway, I met back up with them, and we had really great fun and breakfast and all that. And then we met up with the rest of the tour group, and I kind of forgot what happened, but I decided to split from the tour group because everyone felt like they didn't have enough time to go to the Louvre, and I'm a museum junkie. I had to go to the Louvre. I had to go. So I split away from the group, and I remember standing outside the Louvre, and I'm taking tons of pictures of myself. Like, I'm at the Louvre. I'm going to find those pictures. They're really funny. And this woman comes running up to me, and she's like, hey, I recognize you from Instagram. So here I am at the Louvre taking tons of pictures of myself, and it turned out to be Megan from I Teach What's Your Superpower. She's really big on Instagram, is a blog designer, has a cool TPT store, and I just couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my gosh, like, I know you from Instagram, and you know me, and we're both TPTers, and that's what I love about the teacher Instagram community and being a TPT seller and a teacher blogger is, I mean, what are the chances of meeting someone the first time in Paris in front of the Louvre? I mean, we go to a bunch of the same events, but the first time we meet is like at the Louvre. It was so, oh my gosh, it was amazing. Even though we were both exhausted, we still got to chit chat for a good 15-20 minutes and everything. So that was like, I will never forget. After the Louvre, I think I spent 4 or 5 hours there, not nearly long enough. I did get to see the Mona Lisa though, and that was pretty cool. She's really, really tiny, almost like the size of one of these pictures, and you can't get very close to her. So that was a little weird. But I mean, I was brought to tears in the Louvre. I don't know, I'm just such a museum junkie, and this is like the museum of all museums. And I burst out crying like 3 times. It might have been the codeine, because you can buy that over the counter in England. So after the Louvre, we all met back at the Eiffel Tower. So here I am at Eiffel Tower. Those are some of my traveling buddies. And I saw the line for Eiffel Tower. You got to go up a bunch of stairs to go up it. And I was just like, nah, I'm really tired. And I forgot, like, I don't know if it was just my cough or being tired. I think I kind of hurt my foot walking around the Louvre all day, but I was exhausted. So I decided to just sit underneath the Eiffel Tower and people watch, and then these lovely people did so with me. This is Kayla Delzer's dad. His name is Ken as well, so 2 Kens on the trip. And he's a retired music teacher, so we had a lot of fun chats about just, you know, being a teacher. And yeah, he was a lot of fun to just kind of sit under the Eiffel Tower with, but it was almost more cool sitting underneath it and people watching than going up in it. Well, that's what I tell myself anyway. So then that evening, we took a train back to London. So it was just like a 1-day trip to Paris, kind of a whirlwind, but enough to, you know, see the two big attractions. Well, there's a million attractions. So anywho, the next day, 2 other travelers invited me along with them. Deb and Elizabeth invited me to go to a little ocean town called Brighton. And it was really windy and cold that day, as you could see by my hair. But we had a lot of fun walking around, and I really love those 2 ladies. We really bonded, and I had fish and chips for the first time there. And this was the view out of our window at the restaurant. Isn't that funny? I put fish and chips in my book. You know what I didn't like though? Mashed peas. A little weird. And now the trip is just nearly completed. My last day there, I don't know, there was a lot of people going to like fancy shopping areas, and I was just like, why would I do that? I brought a 57-pound suitcase. I can't bring anything back with me, and I've probably blown all my money. So I went off kind of by myself. I think I invited a few people. I'm like, hey, we should go see the Stonehenge. And everyone was like, no. So I went totally by myself. I bought a train ticket. Stonehenge is probably about an hour and a half from London. But I just thought, I mean, come on. You got to see Stonehenge. It's one of the most famous places in the world. So I went by myself, and it was super easy. You know, I got a same-day ticket, and it took me the whole day, but it was just really relaxing. I was on a train, and then I was on a bus, and then I walked around Stonehenge. So there I am. I was so excited. I wore my Bookbag Tours shirt, and then that night, I just decided on a whim on the train, on the way back from Stonehenge, I thought, you know what? There's one play I've always wanted to see. I'm going to see it tonight. And I bought the ticket on my phone for Wicked. I've heard so much about Wicked, and I really wanted to go. So I went to Stonehenge and Wicked by myself the last day. But it was kind of perfect because I started out the trip by myself and sick, and I ended the trip by myself and sick. You know, it was a lot of fun. I highly recommend Bookbag Tours. I don't know if I would recommend going alone like I did unless you're really comfortable being alone, because most people went with a friend. There was only 3 or 4 people that went alone, and so I would recommend, if you can, go with a friend, go with a coworker, bring another teacher buddy along with you, just so you have your roommate, you have someone to do stuff with. It would just be highly recommended. It was just a little awkward. Like when I got really sick, like no strangers wanted to be alone with me, but one of my best teacher buddies would probably have put up with me and been like, oh, well, you know, that's what friends do. So anyway, it was totally worth it though. It was an experience of a lifetime, and I could do a whole nother video about everything I learned in London schools, but I'll save that for next time. Anyway, if you want to do the book bag tours, I made a little video last night. I'll put that up next. I am a sales rep. Like every time I can convince someone to take the tour, I get $100 credit towards my next trip. So far I've sold one tour, but that's fine. I mean, $100 is $100. I'm not going to complain. Bookbagtours.com. The world is my classroom. Teach with teachers around the globe. And they have a little trailer, a little movie. Really, the most important part is if you scroll down here, I'm in the corner of one picture. I did get cut a little bit. Am I happy about it? Not really. But you can go to trips. Ta-da! And here's all the trips coming up. Most of them are sold out. They sell out pretty early. But suppose like there's still trips on the one I'm going to next summer, New Zealand. You can click New Zealand. And if you do go buy one, my name would be on a drop-down menu. Like say you go to purchase, you need to put in a little order and you fill all this out. I am under the sales recruiter right here. If you look, Jess Martin, whimsical teacher, look at all these sales recruiters. But, I mean, you get a little discount, so you might as well. Oh, there's Jen Jones. Hello, Jen Jones. I love all of you. Thank you for listening. I'll see you later today for my next vlog.